am here with Megan Taylor. The accolades of your goalie career are so long, I'll probably save them for the introduction. Megan, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I before we hit record here, I said I made a list of top 5 goalies I wanted to interview in 2021 for this show, and you are on there. You are top 5, so we're doing this, and I'm so excited.
Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go. I love it. I love it. All right. Going all the way back. It's kind of a tradition around here on the show. First time you stepped into goal. Do you remember that story?
Yeah. So a little background about me is I grew up with an older sister and older brother, and my parents are from Pittsburgh. So when they moved here, they had no idea what lacrosse was. And my brother came home one day and was like, he played ice hockey all his life and always wanted to be an ice hockey goalie. But my dad's big thing was he wanted Alex to know how to skate. So he's like, don't be a hockey goalie. Like I want like that's a skill you can have for the rest of your life, like being a really good skater. And then when he came home one day, he was like, all my friends are trying out this sport called lacrosse. Like I would like I want to do it. And so my parents were like signed us up for everything. So next thing you know, he signed up. He goes to practice and the coach goes, we need a goalie. His hand like immediately goes up. So my mom the next day takes him to go get gear because my mom's like, oh sure. Like I know nothing about it. Sure. Gets all the gear. He ends up loving it, so he's playing constantly. But how that relates back to me is he would come home from practice and he never got to shoot, so he wanted to just hang around and shoot on somebody. So he'd put his little sister in the goal. I'd get all his gear, put it on, and just hop on in the backyard. And then it kind of just became, when it was my turn to try out, I was like a half field player, half goalie, because they needed a goalie and they knew it was super young and they knew that they knew like my brother was a goalie. So they're like, oh yeah, she's not scared of anything. Hopped in and I was a terrible field player, I'm pretty sure. Like my dad was like, you are so bad. And then he's like, your first game, you like hopped in and you actually, for being like yay big, weren't scared of the ball, which is like half the battle when you're that age. And he was like, I just kept like, I came in the car and he's like, I think you should just be goalie. Like you seem to like be a lot better at that. So kind of how I got into it.
I
My
love it.
brother kind of just forced it upon me.
Yeah, I love it. I think there's only 3 ways people become goalies, and the main one is like they have an older brother that's like, hey, or older sister, get in there. I want to shoot on you, and that's that's a lot. That's a lot of people's stories. So that's awesome. That's awesome. So you said you weren't scared of the ball at the very beginning, because that's very odd. Like most lacrosse goalies, most people in general, if you fire a rubber bullet at them, like your natural reaction is to kind
Yeah,
of get smaller and to get like scared of the ball, but you weren't.
I guess one of the things though, like when we're playing in the backyard, like we played all different sports growing up, like basketball, street hockey growing up, like anything that there was a stick and a ball or just a sport we were
Mhm.
playing. And my brother, he's 5 years older than me, and he would always take it a little bit easy because he knew he was going to win, but he wanted someone to play around with. So I think that was another part. Like I knew he was never, occasionally, when I got older, he would hit me, but in the very beginning, he wasn't hitting me. So it was a lot easier. And then I would get really excited if I saved it because he would make it really fun. Um,
Mm.
so it just never really became like a scared factor. But fasting forward, like definitely got scared, here and there after a big bruise or something, even
Yeah.
at like a college level. So I definitely know where that's coming from. But when you're yay big, I don't even think I knew what fear was. I was like, oh, this won't hurt. Like it's a sport. I can win. Like here we go.
I love it. You mentioned something there that's really important. I think for the culture of teams and like creating this environment where goalies, where kids want to be goalie, which is he made it really fun. Like when I made a save, and that's something I talk about with coaches all the time. And like, hey, I'm having trouble attracting goalies. It's a hard position for youth, getting fired at. Like, are you making it really fun? Like when they make a save, are you just going nuts? And like, are you helping them out? And are they getting the respect that they deserve? So I think that's really interesting. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I like loved everything you say. That's like something I preach. And, you know, I didn't realize it was, I'm sure we'll get into it, but when I ended my college career, I didn't realize how special it was to have younger goalies, super young, come up to me and say, like, they're a goalie, can you sign this? Because when I was growing up, it was like you had to beg someone to hop in goal. So whenever I get the opportunity to, work with that youth or even a high schooler or a middle schooler, I think that's one of the big things that's so important to me is, I'm not here to pelt you with a lacrosse ball. That's going to happen eventually in a game, but I'm going to make you better and make you just have the time of your life and feel like a rock star in cage.
Yeah,
Um,
I
and
love
just,
that.
yeah, like hype crowd, excited, making you kind of want to come back and make that next big save in a real game.
Right. And it doesn't matter, like, the goalie could just be standing there and not move, and the ball hits him right in the helmet.
Let's
And
go.
yeah, like you go nuts. Like that's how it is, right?
Yeah, position saves. I always say it. Wait, what a great position save.
Exactly. Exactly. Um, I was gonna mention, so one of like the great memories I have. I played club ball at Cal, right, in the MCLA, and after one game, this little goalie comes up to me and like has a ball and a pen and wants my autograph, and I was just like, oh man, this is the best,
Yeah.
And not even like I'm not even playing D1 at Maryland, Tewaaraton award winner like Megan Taylor, but hey, it touched me. I loved it.
Yeah, definitely a special thing.
Yeah. So when you're growing up, then, you play a bunch of sports, which I imagine just helps with your general like athleticism, your general IQ of sports. But did you get any specific goalie coaching?
Um, no, I mean, I would consider my brother my goalie coach. After the part where I was kind of like taking it up for real, we would still go outside, even when we were middle school, like he wasn't really coaching me, but we'd go outside and be like first to 10. And I would have to save it and also clear it while he was on the run. And granted, our backyard isn't big, so he was making it as hard and difficult as possible. And with that, like as soon as he played lacrosse at Salisbury, so as soon as he kind of never had a goalie coach, he wasn't, he was just pure athleticism, like
Mm-hmm.
save the ball, react, all that good stuff. So when he got a goalie coach at Salisbury, he kind of brought that knowledge right to me
Mm-hmm.
at a young age. So that was kind of, still having fun with it and in the backyard. At an older age too, I feel like you don't really see. I just love sports. Like you can talk to anybody in my family. Like anytime I can get outside, I can get outside and play anything. Whether it's pickleball now, like anything at all, I want to do. So
Mm-hmm.
even like at a middle school age, like eighth grade, ninth grade, like you'd still hop in the backyard when he was home and kind of get after it, but still, learning. But at the same time, like, all right, done with this. Let's just react and have a good time.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah, that's what you kind of find. I've seen people who tend to be the best, lacrosse goalies, the best athletes, is they just love sports, right? And in the off season, like they're not necessarily taking shots. They're playing basketball or they're playing, tennis, or they're, like you said, playing racquetball or pickleball, which is a absolutely great sport for lacrosse goalies, by the way.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah. That's awesome. What would you say is your favorite thing about being a lacrosse goalie?
Ooh, oh, favorite thing. I don't know. A couple come to my mind, so I'll just blurt them out.
All right. Yep.
I guess like one of my favorite things is, making a save, and it doesn't really have to be an amazing save, but making that save and like being the first like transition pass to a fast break opportunity. And I love the speed of the game, so I think that's why I really enjoy that, because as soon as I hit that girl in full stride, and it's like if I can get it right on her stick, she's off to the races, and everybody else is now I'm watching it from the other end, just seeing like the other team trying to track her down. And so that's always really fun. And then, I mean, what goalie doesn't like at the end of the game when you win, sometimes when you lose, but when you win, everybody coming and giving you a big hug. I mean, it doesn't really get much better than that. But that's definitely in my top one. And probably like the last one that just kind of comes to my mind is I love the aspect of like team defense. So being able to kind of, maybe my defender got beat, but having her know that like I have her back is something really special to me. So I like that aspect a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So you're growing up as a kid, and you kind of your brother's showing you the ropes. And he was a goalie at Salisbury. Is that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Awesome.
2 national championships.
Not
And then
bad.
he was my
Not
coach
bad.
at yeah, he was my coach at Maryland for the last 2 years, the volunteer coach. So
Oh,
he
wow.
ended up winning. He got a ring for that one too, my senior year one.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
And so is he, in your backyard, or is he kind of showing you like, all right, this is how you step to the ball. This is how you set up in your stance. This is how we're going to hold our hands. I mean, is he giving you those nuts and bolts of training?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I always tell this story. He never. We grew up in Pittsburgh, so he only saw boys lacrosse. My sister started playing once he started playing in high school, but at that point, like we didn't really. I don't need. We didn't. We went, but we were playing while the game was going on. We weren't really watching. So when he was teaching me, yeah, he was teaching me the fundamentals, like the arc, just basic things that a little kid you need to know. Like how to hold your stick and like you need to punch your hands, but make sure you don't punch them too hard.
Mm-hmm.
But I always tell the story since he didn't know what shooting space was. So I was taught at a young age, like, come out, like, why not? And I remember I'd come out and repeatedly I would have to go behind on the 8 meter because I was getting called as a goalie for shooting space because I was outside the crease because that's how far I was coming out. And I would make like the saver would hit me because these little kids, when I'm playing, they're not used to that. But because I was coming out, now they had an open cage, and it took me a while to be like, oh, because I was like, why does this keep happening? Because I would watch Alex's games, and I didn't really know the rules at that age.
Yeah.
And then we finally figured it out, so we had to control myself a little bit more of not coming out full speed at a girl.
Yeah. So I'm like, I mean, I'm more men's lacrosse than I am women's lacrosse. And I've coached women's goalies, but never like coached women's lacrosse. So I would say like, there's a lot of things about women's lacrosse that I'm still learning. Is that still a rule, that shooting space rule? I mean, in
Yeah,
terms of the goalie coming out and you can't get outside the crease.
yeah, so shooting space, it's just to protect yourself, like protect the player. So if you're putting yourself in a dangerous spot, with that being said, as soon as you come out of the crease, you're then considered a field player.
Mm.
So then you have to like play by those rules. So another fun fact is like my brother would go down and try to score, and he's like, "You should try to do that." And I would run to like the 50 when I was growing up, or like wherever I could get, and they had to tell me like, "You can't go and score like Alex. Your stick's illegal. Like you have the pockets because you're a field player, so it wouldn't count."
Yeah.
So
I'll
just
tell you
little things
what,
like that
we
make it
need
a
it.
little different.
Yeah, we need to change that rule. Don't you think? I would
Well,
love to
now
see.
I'm not fast enough, but when I was younger, I was fast enough. Now I would just get the ball taken from me.
I know, but we need to see some women scoring goals. It's
I
one of the most
agree.
exciting plays that there is in lacrosse, I think.
I agree. I love watching a goalie go all the way to end.
Yeah, totally. All right, so you mentioned a little bit about like your style, and I think you've said a couple times in this conversation, I was only yay big. You're only yay big now. I mean, 5'3" if the program is correct. How would you describe your style of lacrosse goalie play?
Oh, I like this question. Well, like you said, I am a little bit of a smaller goalie, 5'3" with cleats. So I always make sure I have those spiky cleats on. Um, but I think when people watch me, they just kind of the style they would recommend is like she's just reacting, um, which I think is kind of cool. But I would kind of consider myself more of a traditional goalie. I make the save. I don't do anything flashy. I clear the ball.
Hmm.
Um, Definitely at that college level too. I wasn't doing anything crazy. Big thing for me was I was holding, like I like to hold position because I'm so, there's not a lot of me. It's just not, I have to know where I am in the cage. If I give up too much against a really talented, offense, for example, I think of like a Northwestern, they can kind of hit those corners. So if I hold my positioning and I know, okay, they don't see a lot of net, they're gonna see something because I can't cover it all, then I'm putting myself in a really good position. And then just like the reaction part, I think a lot of times, I like to think there's really not much going in my head. I just see the ball, react to the ball. And every goalie kind of plays a little different, but definitely just a traditional hold positioning, explode out, try to make the save if you can, and then
Hmm.
clear it. Nothing fancy, just clear the ball. You did your job. Give your defense a break.
I love it. When I watch Megan Taylor clips, highlights, saves. One thing that really sticks out to me is the quickness. Like sometimes you're so quick to the shot. I'm like, oh, she's got to be guessing, right? Because you're that quick. And then I'm like, whoa, no, she did it again. Oh no, she did it again. She's never guessing wrong. Okay, wait a minute. She's probably just reacting. How did you build up that level of quickness?
Yeah, I get that a lot. I definitely feel like I do have quick hands compared to, other people. What's that game when your hands would be on top and you try to slap them? I was always really good at that game for some reason. So definitely have quick hands, but just kind of, I know it sounds repetitive, but like the backyard play, then we would do stuff like turn. So I would be turning and he would say shot and I would just have to react and find it, even if I was way out of position or if he was right on top. And then it kind of got to the point where he started trying to score when I was getting older because he was like, I want to like he wanted to win. So like I was getting shot like not easy stuff. Like I was just kind of getting pelted at, and I either saved it with my stick, which I preferred because then it wouldn't hit my body. So I had to learn how to be really really quick with my stick in that aspect. But just like the reaction part, I think a lot of it too is, a lot of times people only think about you need to look at the ball, which is 100% true. You need to look at the ball, but you can tell a lot by like a player's shoulders or how they, go to shoot. Um, which maybe in the game, you're not 100% thinking about, but when you see shots every single day, you kind of start to tune in on, little stuff like that in a
Yeah.
game where you're not even realizing it. So I think that definitely helped me as well.
Yeah, the goalie Smith guys call it read 'em and beat 'em, and where you're like reading the shooter's body language and then
Yeah.
kind of beating them to the spot. And I think in the women's game, it's even more like with because of the shallow pockets, like you don't have as many options to deceive the goalie.
Yeah.
With that deep pocket in the men's game, I can kind of look like I'm gonna, lean back and shoot it low and then rip it high. But anyway, it's a great point. It's a great point.
Yeah.
Kind of reading those shooters, and then that comes with experience too. Like if you've seen thousands of shots, like what this shot's gonna look like and where it's gonna go, right?
Yeah, and just like seeing different shooters, because just like a goalie, how everybody plays a little differently, like shooters all
Mm.
play a little differently. So, I always say to young goalies, like whenever you get a chance to get shots by anybody, take it.
Hmm.
Even if, maybe do 5 minutes of like them trying to score super hard. And then the next 5 minutes, like work on you, like tell the shooter what you kind of want to work on because every little shooter shoots differently.
Yeah.
Um, One of my good friends, Caroline Steele, like she likes to rip it. So I got to see like those type of shots from the 8 meter and she liked to do a side on. While like if you look at a girl like Erica Evans, who's on the Canadian team, her first step off an 8 meter so quick that she ends up shooting kind of in front of her face to protect her stick. Um, so just kind of different shots like that definitely help, me and any goalie, if you can do it, to kind of just read different body language and different types of releases.
Yeah. Who was the was there a shooter that who is the toughest shot you ever faced?
Oh boy, toughest one I ever faced. I would say I really didn't enjoy um in person ripping the ball at me because I knew I had to be really, really quick. And I mean, at the end of the day, if you can rip the ball one step inside the 8 meter and you are pinging corners, like good for you. Like there's not much I can do. So it
Mhm.
wasn't even the fact like I was scared of getting hit. It was the fact that it's such a hard save to make. You have to be, you can't hesitate at all. And you can't guess at that point because she can go any corner. So like the people that kind of come to my mind is who's playing right now, who's crushing it. Izzy Skane from Northwestern, Selena from Northwestern, Nicole from um, Syracuse, like any of those people that when I played them, they just ripped from the eight.
Love
Definitely
it.
one of not my ideal situation. I like when they run in. I'd rather have like a shot almost right on the crease than that. But that's just because I think I have to be super quick on those.
Hmm. Awesome. Awesome. Cool. So when you were growing up and your kind of brothers showing you, the ropes and how to play goalie, were there some other sort of, I don't know if they're idols or other lacrosse goalies that you kind of looked up to and learned from?
Not really. It's funny. Like I wasn't, growing up. I played basketball, field hockey, lacrosse. I played soccer growing up until I had to pick in high school. But I wasn't fully watching, games.
Mhm.
I know college was going on clearly, but I never tuned into it. It was probably until I had to send emails and realized I wanted to play lacrosse in college was like, I should probably see what teams I think I could go to and like send an email to them. So I wasn't like at that point in my life, like watching lacrosse or anything like that. I literally would just go to my sister Amanda's games or my brother Alex's games, and that would kind of be my sporting events. So definitely not like that, but I do remember, the big names like Jen Adams, um, just because they were always talked about in like lacrosse practice. So she was not a goalie, but I remember hearing about her. She's probably the first person I probably knew of in the lacrosse world.
I love it. I love it. That's cool. So at what point in high school, you mentioned kind of, whoa, I should probably start checking out some schools. Like at what point in high school did you realize, or maybe even before? No, it's got to be in high school since they changed the rules. But anyway, what point did you realize, hey, I'm pretty good at making saves. I could probably do this at the next level. And then, how did Maryland come into the picture?
Yeah. So back when I was getting recruited, the rules were a little bit different. So I committed my sophomore year, which now you can't do.
Right.
With that, I guess going into like my freshman or maybe like halfway through my freshman, I don't know, maybe right before my sophomore year. Honestly, the timeline's kind of who knows. My club coach was like, everyone needs to have a list of ten schools. If you want to play in college, a list of 10 schools, and we'll talk about it and kind of see. So my schools were kind of all over the place. I had Division 3 and Division 1 on there. I had from Maryland to UNC to I don't even know. Like I thought at the time I wanted to go as far away as I could. So I know I had Oregon on there.
Mm.
Can't get much farther, I thought. So and then I also had like a Salisbury too. So just kind of all over the place. And I remember having a conversation with my club coach, and she was like, "Okay, like goalies, it's a hard position. They take one or two, so we'll just kind of see and play it out." And so I sent emails, and then I got one email back. It was from Maryland. I took a visit. I committed like the next day,
Oh,
verbally committed the next day. So I guess my process was a little easy. I didn't have to go through all those debating. I knew and once the decision kind of came through, it's easy to say you want to go far and whatnot, but I'm such a one big thing for me, and I kind of hit me when I was, taking the first visit to Maryland was I want my parents at every single game. Like me and my
mm.
family would go to Alex's games. So that was just really important to me. And like having that ability, it's 45 minutes away. It's kind of like a no brainer. You can't get better lacrosse and better location, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. When you get to Maryland, and at that point, did your goalie game change at all? Did you learn some new things? Like how was it? How was the experience for you?
Yeah. So right before my fall of senior year, I tore my ACL in a field hockey game. So I really didn't get to play my senior year in high school. So I got to play in 2 games, I think. Um, and so I was kind of nervous because, you took away a full year of playing
Mm.
goalie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got the last 2 games, but that's not really, getting a full set in. So going to Maryland, I was like, woo, here we go. Like just kind of hop right back into it. There's no turning back now. So I remember like the first day of practice, the shots, I was like, I did my first rep and, goalies rotate out. I talked to the other goalie. I was like, oh my gosh, these shots are perfect. They're hitting every corner. Like, how in the world am I supposed, like, what? And she's like, the goalies at the time, like Emma Moss, was just like, you're fine. Like, it's every first practice, like freshman feels the same way, no matter what
Mhm.
position you are in. It's just kind of like, oh wow, here we are at this next level. You're playing against seniors, like Taylor Cummings. Like, I'm like, oh, how can
Right.
I? But so definitely with that, so my game definitely changed. Like I said before, I used to run out to like the 50, 75. Because I couldn't really, I'd clear the ball, but sometimes nobody was open and I only had 10 seconds. So I might as well run like at that point, in high school. But in college, like everybody was open. So, and I was not nearly as fast as I thought I was compared to high school. So that aspect kind of changed. And more importantly, like just, I think a big thing is like my positioning definitely improved. I didn't realize how important it was because if I'm like, a step off, I'm not making that. tip on my on save. So
Mhm.
that was something that I kind of improved on after my freshman year. Just after freshman year, freshman year, I just was kind of hoping for the best, like reacting and not really focusing so much. I'm like, I can do this. Like, don't want to overthink anything. And then when that off season came, like, all right, what do you think I could improve on? It was like that positioning was crucial.
Yeah. Going back to that injury. So you had an ACL tear, and if there's goalies out there, who are injured at the moment, or maybe heaven forbid that it happens in the future. What tips do you have for recovering from that injury? Because as a lacrosse goalie, like, not only do you have to do the physical stuff, like you're doing the physical exercises, like getting your knee back in shape. It's up here, right? It's the mental part that you need to get back into. So how did you overcome that injury?
Yeah, at the time, I think anybody that tears their ACL that loves, or that gets any injury, not just an ACL, that gets any injury that they're out for, a certain amount of time, and the only thing you can do is rest. There's nothing you can do to, make it go faster or whatnot. It does take a toll on you. I remember thinking it was like the end of the world in that moment. Like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do for the next, 9 months? But I think the big thing is, like, my biggest advice is, take all that, doubt or whatnot and prove everyone wrong. Like, rehab so hard. So you come back, and now, like, my bad knee is probably my stronger knee. And with that, like, if you're a goalie listening to this, like, there's so much you can do besides, just getting shots. There's hand stuff, there's reaction stuff, jump roping once you're able to do that, where if you can't play in a contact sport yet, you can still just get as much, you know, practice, even though you're not getting actual, playing in that game. And then that all builds up to when you're first step back on the field, or no matter what that field is or what position you are, it kind of all feels worth it at that time. And like you said, the mental part, 100%. I can speak for all goalies. Like, there's so much mental side of it too. And then any injury has a mental hurdle that you have to
Mhm.
overcome. And once you know that, like, there's gonna be an end, like, you see that finish line, and like, I can get to that finish line. And right after my surgery, I was a little down in the dumps. Couldn't really move. I was on crutches for a super long time. And then finally, as soon as I could, lift my leg up, that was kind of, I saw the finish line. It's like, all right, here we go. Like, next step is to be able to jump. Next step is to be able to jog. And every little victory is so important. So celebrate them, and, like, really just, it's gonna get better. It's never just gonna stay the same. That's why we have surgeries and whatnot these days.
Yeah, I love it. It's a lot of good stuff in that answer there, and I think anyone who's going through an injury should play that quote back, or play that answer back a bunch of times. That's good. One of the things that really stuck with me, what you just said, is, like, get those little wins. Get those
Hmm.
little wins. I mean, that's such a huge element of the mental game, if you ask me. It starts, like, in the morning. Sometimes when I've done some mental training with some kids, right, with some goalies, and one of the things I say is in the morning, let's try waking up 10 minutes earlier and just get right out of bed, right? And what does that mean? It's just a little win that you can start stacking up, right? And I think that's looking for those little wins is a huge part of the mental game.
Yeah, 100%. And, like, celebrating them, you can take a moment and think, like, man, I did it. I'm proud of myself. Because I feel like today it's like no one can feel proud unless, they can commit to a school at a super, like, no, like, commit, like, celebrate the little things that get you to those big things, or, the big things you don't want to do, like, celebrate the little stuff that you do want to do.
Yeah.
I think that's super important.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. So when you get to Maryland, it's when you're coming in as a freshman for a brand new team, it's often hard to be like a leader of that team because you don't know any of the girls. Maybe you're a little bit shy. How did you go about being a leader?
Yeah, luckily I had, like, awesome leaders to look up to at Maryland. So kind of backstory is, right off the bat, Maryland, we played our first game, and I went in the second half, and it was me and another goalie. And then the next game I started, and then she went in the second half. And then the UNC game came, and I started that game. And I thought I was going to end up, getting off the second half, because that's kind of what the trend was doing. And then I played a really good half at UNC. Like that's one of those games. If you were to ask me, like, what's your favorite game? Like that one, without a doubt. That's like the moment every kid dreams of: Maryland versus UNC at UNC. And to be like a first game I've ever played the full game in, it's really special. So with that, like, I didn't know exactly where I stood. I didn't know, nothing was ever given. It didn't like come in and knew I was going to play right off the bat. Like, no, that was not the case whatsoever. So, you got to work every single day really hard and kind of bring it every single game and just kind of see what happened. So with that, like I had awesome leadership. Taylor Cummings, she was just an awesome leader overall, to be able to, first off, her accolades, unbelievable. And probably, the pressure she felt and to be able to execute, and not only execute, but to bring the team together, if things weren't going well, and make sure we felt calm, huge. And then on the defensive side of things, like I had people to look up to like Alice Mercer. I mean, you can't really get much better defense than Alice Mercer, in my opinion. I still, to this day, I like can't even. I always say like the semifinal game, I watched her. I had a front row seat to watch her and Kayla Trainer, because that was her matchup at it on the crease, and front row seat. I mean, I couldn't get much. Give me popcorn. It was amazing. So just them, and like, another people that come to my mind is like Zoe Stukenberg, Nadine, just awesome leadership where, they didn't make me feel like a freshman. Yeah, I was still telling them, I'm used to telling them where the ball is at. And, if I saw something, I would speak up, because there was never, never felt the nervous to ever say anything. If I think that the big thing was, if you can help the team, help the team. So I kind of hope I kind of brought that as I grew up at Maryland, and hopefully the freshman when I was a senior felt the same way about me.
That's right. That's right. What was your communication style out on the field? Like, were you really loud and vocal, or, were you kind of just, not as much?
Yeah, no, I was definitely loud and vocal. And like, like hear me, like my voice is like, who knows, but it just gets squeakier as I get louder. So that was one good thing. They always said, they were always like, your voice just stuck out, like no matter what, because it's so unique. So they could always kind of tune me in. So
Yeah.
just like, I always like to talk about where the ball is at, and like if you're alone, I think that's really important. If there's an ISO coming up, you need to know about it, but not be so frantic where I'm screaming ISO, because I think sometimes that can kind of get in the defender's head, like, oh no, it's an ISO and it's on me. So I kind of changed that to like, hey, you're alone. Susie Q, get ready to help. And that I got a lot of positive feedback about that, because, that made them feel a little bit more comfortable. So just saying where the ball's at, telling them what I'm seeing, and then, encouraging them too at the same time. If they made a good play, the next thing, like that ball's I'm running up and telling them, hey, like Susie Q, that was awesome. Like, way to force them that low angle, or like way to do like just little stuff like that to, in a game, it can be a long 60 minutes on defense. It can be exhausting. So just like I said earlier, like celebrate the little things, and then, take care of the little things, those ground balls or whatnot, and the big things, big picture. And the end of the day, the scoreboard will hopefully be on your side.
Yeah. That was a big part of my game as well. I love to be like a cheerleader, like
Yeah.
I was the number one fan. Like, if one of my D-men made like a sweet takeaway check, right? As soon as we cleared the ball, I mean, I was, first guy out there, gave him a pat on the butt. I mean, like, nice play. So I think that goes a long way for leadership.
Definitely. I mean, one of the big things that we kind of discovered my senior year is, as a team, no one had confidence in themselves, but the person next to you had confidence in you 100%. But, you always have that little self-doubt, or like, you don't think you're a good, for example, like a 1v1 defender, even though like I personally think you're amazing at 1v1. But so just kind of making sure they knew, once we kind of figured that out as a full team, we kind of all thought that about each other and ourselves. So once we figured that out, it was like super important at that point to make sure, hype them up. Like if you see somebody that did something awesome, don't just not tell them. Or if you see something that they can improve on, so the next round they can be awesome at it, tell them. And I think that just goes a long way too.
Yeah. Yeah, and then if you have to give them like constructive feedback, it's like you've earned that right, because you're not only just coming with this I don't know, negative stuff, like you're bringing all this positive stuff, and like, oh, now if he says like, hey, I need to, I don't know, get a step or two higher when he's coming around, from GLE or something like that, like, oh, I'm gonna listen to him or her.
100%.
Yeah. What does, take us through like a standard week at the University of Maryland on the lacrosse team? What does it look like? You guys, if you could.
Yeah, 100%. So standard week is, I guess, in season, we'd have a game on Saturday. And Sunday we would have off. So Sunday, kind of working my way backwards. Sunday we would do our treatments and just kind of rest day. Saturday we would play. So leading up to that week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we practice. And practices weren't, we came and we got what we needed to do done, and then it was over. It wasn't dragged on. But if we had a bigger agenda that day, it would be a little bit longer of a day. And then our pregame practice would be that Friday. So that's just kind of dialing it in, hyping each other up, just kind of getting on the field where we're going to be playing on, and kind of seeing the setting, and just kind of working on like what we need to do to execute that our game plan for that day, whether that's a matchup or forcing low angles, or on offense, setting up plays, anything like that would be that pregame practice. And again, nothing crazy. I don't know. It was really not relaxed. Like, we got stuff done, but it was a really good week
Yeah,
leading up
yeah,
to game day.
yeah. I love it. What about what were some of the like drills that you really like to do to get better, or was it just a lot of live shots?
Yeah, no, there was definitely some drills. I love tennis balls. I really do. I think that was in season 2. I got pretty beat up. I don't think I would love them as much if I wasn't as beat up, but putting my body in front of a tennis ball for a practice is pretty easy, compared to if I have a bruise that's really tender, and putting my body in front of that, I might be hesitant, and that kind of creates a bad habit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so just tennis ball drills, I think, I'm always going to say I love reaction drills, just going out there and playing. So whether that's turns or low angles, or, using the pole, anything like that. I think one big thing is, for me, I never grew up with any fancy equipment. I didn't buy, like, I don't know, I see some people having like the tennis ball machine going at them, like a baseball. Like, I had a stick, and I had a couple lacrosse balls, and I had a couple tennis balls. Literally nothing fancy. I remember one time I was having a hard time, just keeping my head following that ball all the way through. My stick would go, but my eyes really wouldn't follow it. So what we did was we just took a lanyard. Like, this is how nonchalant, a lanyard, and we put it to my helmet, and we put it to the top of my stick. So if my hands were going, my head had to get there too, just for a couple rounds. So just things like that when I had it around me. But drills, like I said, I would always do a reaction drill every single day if I could, to get me going. And I also love any competition. I know that sounds bad. I love, if it's, whether it's me and my brother or anybody, like first to 5, sure. With a clear, like, I love that. I like making it hard. I like when it's 4-4, and then the next goal is the biggest one. That's kind of my favorite type of drill.
Yeah, I love it. Do you think there's any unconventional things that you do to train to be an elite goalie? I maybe just the fact that you've played so many other sports
Yeah.
is probably a little unconventional, but anything else come to mind?
Um, Honestly, no. I guess the biggest thing would probably be, um like, my mental side. I think is really good. I think that's kind of like, nothing, like, if a shot goes in, I'm really kind of, all right, next goal. Um I don't know why that is. Everyone asks me. I don't know if it, I always say the joke, like, my backyard, I was raking leaves, I felt like, all the time. Like, I got really good at it. So that ball went in the back of the net, I gave it to the referee. So it wasn't anything. I just think I'm really, really, well, I was really good at, next play mentality. Whether you made that
Hmm.
save or not, the next save is going to be your biggest save you make of the day. I think that kind of allowed me to get that far in season.
Interesting. Yeah. Did you have like any sort of post goal routine? Like what happens when you get scored on?
Um, Honestly, I'd give the ball to the referee and then I just go into the huddle and, listen to what they have to say. But at the same time, if it's on me, it's on me. I would tell them, like, you played awesome defense, you forced them out of a low angle. I should have made that save, or like, I got the next one, guys. Keep it up. And like, because sometimes I just think, like, as a defensive unit, you can talk about it, but like, hey, that was awesome in front of me. That's on me. Or it's just at the same time, that's a really good shot.
Hmm.
You can do everything you can, and talented shooters are going to score. Good shots go in, great shots go in. So, not kind of dwelling, and it's a long game. Um, in high school, I used to get scored on like 20 times a game, so I got really used to it. So it wasn't. I don't know. I don't think it's 60 minutes. A lot can change. You can go 4 goals, 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't make a single save, and then next time you don't let them score for the next 10 minutes. So I just think that mentality of, like, you don't know what's going to come next, really helps.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, that mental side is so tough. And it sounds like you had that next shot mentality. So many people have talked about that on the podcast. It's almost become cliche, but it's what we need to have as
Mhm.
lacrosse goalies. Anything else, when you think about the mental game and some of the lessons that, or maybe some of the things that you're really good at mentally, anything else come to mind for you?
I think that's probably the biggest thing. I think the next biggest mental thing is, you have your body hurts, and
Mm,
still getting out there and grinding, right? That's really hard to do. For example, today I tried to go for a run today, and I got 35 seconds into it, and I was like, I don't really want to do this, but like, you did it anyway. Um, but like, when you're in goal, you might have some really bad bruises. Being smart at practice, whether that means, like, getting treatment or whatever that means, to make sure you put yourself in a good position, but at the same time, not letting that get to you in a game. And I think
yeah.
that I would like to say that nobody lets anything happen to them in a game. They just go out and play, but that's not the case realistically for a lot of people. So making sure, like, no matter what that is, where you feel good stepping in the cage at the end of the day to perform the best for your team.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a huge mental toughness lesson is, pushing through discomfort,
Hmm.
and being because there's a lot of times where like you said, you don't want to do that run, or you don't want to go see 500 shots, or you don't feel like, I don't know, practicing, right? And it's kind of like pushing yourself to do it because you're going to get better, and even like pushing yourself to get outside of that comfort zone because that's where
Yeah.
the progress happens.
And then at the same time, I think it's super important too to, like, realize it's not your job. If at the end of the day, if you're in a lot of pain, or maybe you're just not into it and you're doing it for fun, this is completely different. If you have practice or a game, like, clearly you have to do it. But like, as a younger person, if you're listening, like, making sure you don't get burnt out, because I think that's just a big thing too with this day and age is, a lot of times people are getting burnt out, and it's maybe because they're trying to push through so much. So if you have to take a rest, take a rest. I don't think that will be the end of the world, end all be all. But
Yeah.
I think, the next time you hop in the cage, you might feel 1,000 times better because you took a rest,
Yeah.
and maybe not as injured.
Yeah, this one goal, it reminds me of this one goal. He emailed me. He's like, "Hey Damon, I'm playing like 3 games on Saturday. Like, what can I do in between the games to get better?" And I'm like, "Dude, just relax, man.
Yeah.
Like, you
Like,
don't,
oh
you
my
don't need to
God.
do anything. Like, you're playing 3 games. Come on."
Like, if anything, hydrate.
Right.
Hydrate.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, that's a good point about getting burnt out. And that's also why, when goalies ask me what should I do over the summer, a lot of the times I'm saying, like, play basketball, play tennis, like take a break. Cause especially as goalies, like, getting all those shots, it takes a toll on you and your body.
Yeah. And then, once you find, like, an opportunity to go out there and do specific goalie work, like, make the best of it. Um,
Yeah.
I think that's huge. Like, don't just put yourself in a position to get pelted on every single time. If you find a camp or a clinic that's, goalie related, make the best of it. If you have a friend, do 10 minutes, like I said earlier, 10 minutes of her scoring and shooting as hard as she can and working on what she needs to get better with. And then 10 minutes of you and you telling her exactly what you need to see, whether that's, her 50%, her 25%, or anything. But, once you have that opportunity in front of you, make sure you use it too.
Yeah. I love it. Talking a little bit about treatment. So I played at Cal in the MCLA, and we didn't have any treatment, and we were kind of on our own. So I don't think I did anything for bruises. I just let them sit there. Did
Yeah.
you have, how do you treat your bruises? Or did you pad up a little bit?
Yeah. I don't know what it was almost like a foam thing. Like it only happened, I want to say like maybe 3 times in my whole career at Maryland, but like the bruise was so tender, like I couldn't even put like anything on top of it at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was like, this really hurts. Like any pressure hurts. But what we would do is, once it hopefully healed up a little bit and I was able to, touch it and whatnot, just kind of putting a little extra foam layer on it and like taping it around whatever that part of my body is. Nothing crazy, at the end of the day, you just, like you said, you have to let them heal. It's not fun, but once at a certain point, yeah, the coloring's still there, but it doesn't hurt. You just got to get through the hurting phase. But with that, I always wore shin guards in practice too. I think that's kind of something that a lot of goalies don't. Like I wore all my padding, not in games, but in practice, I just wanted to be smart with my body. And it was hot. I get that complaint a lot when I recommend that. Like if you're getting pelted every day and like they're doing shooting drills, you should, protect your body. And they're like, it's hot. I'm like, it's better than not being able to play. If you get hit a certain way, you might have to sit out a couple days. So it's just kind of being, like I said, smart with your body at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. I highly recommend goalies get padded up. I remember one time in practice, I took a crank shot right to the thigh, right? And we all know how that feels. It hurts. Then I'm like, all right, I kept going, right? Stay in the drill. Literally the next play, crank shot, same spot. So 2 abalone hammers to the thigh. And then it like really tightened up. And I'm like, what is going on with my muscle? I've never had this happen. And then I taped an extra field glove, like a glove, because I didn't have anything. So I just taped it. Not that I'd recommend this, but I just taped it on my thigh and got back out there.
Love it. Hey, whatever gets the job done. Made you feel better too. Probably made you feel more productive.
I know. It was funny. Oh, I love it. All right. So going back to your story, then, you're I guess getting starts as early as a freshman, sophomore year, junior year, that all progresses to your senior year where, you're a Tewaaraton finalist and end up winning the award. The question I have for you was that a lot of pressure for you that season?
Yeah, 100%. It didn't feel that way though in the beginning. In the beginning, you're just playing, and then at the end of it, like you're like, oh my, like everybody's talking about it. You go out at the end of a game and like you're going to the tailgate to get some food, and all the parents are just being nice, but everyone's making a comment about it. And I mean, I'm on a podcast, so clearly I have to talk about it. But like normally, me, I don't really talk about myself. I like to talk about the team and whatnot, and, kind of change the subject pretty quickly. But it was kind of always, there. I never in a million years. So it's actually funny. My sister-in-law, she wasn't married at the time, like for my brother, they were fiancés or whatnot. And then her bachelorette party was that weekend. So, and it's kind of a big thing. There's always at least one Maryland girl when I was growing up on it. And we'd always go cheer them on. So that was kind of a big decision to me. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to miss whoever, one of my teammates is going to be awesome. And beyond that, but I'm going to have to miss it for her bachelorette. So I bought my bachelorette ticket. Like I planned on not being around that weekend. Like that was just reality to me. I was like, yeah, I mean, they're never gonna. And then I got the phone call and I was like, oh boy, like I got to figure out, like, I can't say no. I cannot not show up to Tewaaraton. Like, yeah. What? So yeah, I mean, so that's just kind of the background. I thought another person on the team was going to get it, which Jen did. There was another girl when I was on the top 5, Jen Giles. So with that, just like the pressure, I guess, not even pressure of the tour time, but the pressure of wanting to end my senior year on top because of my teammates. I think that was something that I felt, I was kind of in a position where if I was seeing the ball, the team felt really good about it. Like, and not that they ever said anything about it, but it was just kind of like, okay, like they knew, and I love that they knew I had their back. But at the end, like you're like, oh, I got to make sure I figure it out. So
Yeah.
I always tell the story. It was after the Stony Brook game. We were going to the Final Four to play Northwestern, and I was texting my brother because he was meeting us because he had to work, so he didn't come to that pregame practice for the Final Four. And I was texting him, and I was like, I didn't see the ball at all today. Like, I don't feel confident. Like this team, we just lost to them in the Big Ten. I mean, they have incredible shooters. I was like, I don't know. Like he was just kind of like, oh my God, like he just wanted my senior year to be awesome. So he's just like, you're gonna be great. You're gonna do well. And I was like, no, like I get that. Like I have no other choice. But like I'm telling you, like you're the only person I can tell right now. I'm not seeing the ball. Like I don't feel like I did previously. And he was like, oh boy. So we just kind of like went to bed that night. Like we didn't talk about it the next day at all. Cause I just had to tell somebody, like you just can't, I didn't want to tell a teammate because I didn't want them to know. So I told Alex. And then that next day, like he saw me, he like gave me a fist pump. He's like, you ready to go? And like something just kind of clicked in my head. I'm like, yeah, I have potentially 2 more games. I'm guaranteed 1 more game. I'm ready to go. Like whatever happens, like I'm gonna fight to see that ball really well. Even when you don't necessarily see it really well. And I think that kind of changed that attitude of mine, which I needed like at the time, like just like a little, I don't know if it was a fist pump or just getting out there and like, like potentially 2 more games left. Potentially. That's if you win this next game. And you only can do that if you win. So I think another part that helped is my teammates at the end of the day, like in the locker room, it's going to sound cliche, but like we're goofy and silly. And, my one roommate, Kat, she was, just doing goofy things where I just kind of got to relax. And I was just like, it's a sport. Like at the end of the day, it's a sport that I love. And I've been fortunate enough to play. And so that kind of was important to me. Like, all right, like I'm going to do it for them and then see what happens. And hopefully good things happen.
Yeah.
But it definitely helped that I made like a save early on. I don't think I made the first save or the second, but I made a save, I think.
Yeah. Oh, so much to unpack there. First of all, on that last comment, I'm the same way. I was always the same way. Like I never felt, and I wish this wasn't the case, but I never felt like into the flow of the game until I got that first touch, that first save.
Yeah. And
Sounds like you were the same way.
yeah, and it's funny because it's like an inside joke. That's why I never felt pressure with the first save because when we were watching my brother play in college, it was kind of just an inside joke that my family would joke about. If he made the first save, we're like, oh, it's going to be a long game. Like, oh boy, he better not make the first save. So it kind of always helps because that wasn't the joke for me, but like, okay, didn't make the first save. Like, no one, that's totally fine. There's such a long, like, that was just kind of the mentality, like, totally fine, next save, like, right off the bat.
Yeah. Awesome. Going back to that other answer. So one of the things that you said that I absolutely love and would encourage all youth goalies listening to this to do is if you're going through something, tell somebody. It's really hard as a lacrosse goalie if you're going through all these, like you got nerves or you've got issues with your confidence. You likely have somebody in your life that you can tell, and just that act of like telling somebody and
Yeah,
getting it
definitely.
out, it really helps you. And for you, that was your brother.
Yeah, 100%. Just like saying it out loud finally, like, and it wasn't like all season long. It was honestly like one game. Like, I guess like towards the Stony Brook to Northwestern game that week leading up to like just a big moment. Um, that's kind of just when I felt it. And it wasn't like, thankfully, it wasn't all season long, but just finally getting it like out there, like, who, like, this is happening.
Yeah.
Just so much like, then by the time like the moment came, it was like, all right, like the moment's here. Everyone, he knows, like, if anything, he'll hype you up. Like, let's go.
Yeah, right. Because that's the thing, like it's so hard to hype yourself up sometimes or to coach yourself
Yeah.
sometimes. But when you hear it from someone else, when they're like, hey, you've put in thousands of hours, in the backyard or doing all these drills. You're an amazing athlete. Like when you hear that from someone else, it rings a little bit truer. And then you're like, oh yeah, all right, I got this.
Yeah, 100%. It's just kind of what I said earlier. Like, you have no confidence. You might have no confidence in yourself, but the person next to you, I guarantee you, has confidence in the world in you. So
Yeah.
just kind of like remembering that if you're listening, just know that they probably don't want anybody else in cage or nobody else on the draw circle. If you're taking that draw, like, you're the person.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, awesome. So you did win the national championship and the Tewaaraton Award, and congratulations, first goalie to ever do that. That's trailblazer, Megan.
Oh, yeah. I mean, definitely a special moment. Definitely something I did not expect. Everyone always asks me, like, did you see it coming? Like, no, I did not see it coming. I was actually at dinner, at the Tewaaraton dinner the night before, and my coach, Kathy Reese, looked at me and was like, I have no idea if you won. No idea, but if I had to pick, I think you have a good chance. You need to have speech ready. Like, if this comes down to it, like, you just, because she knows, like, that's a lot of people to talk in front of, and that's a lot of, pressure.
Yeah.
So I was just like, that was the moment that was like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, I was just here, like, and so like I kind of just had ideas in my head after that. But then once your name gets called and you're on the stand and I'm shaking, which I never do, it's just a lot of people. And then I was like, all right, all those ideas just went out the drain.
Yeah.
Start speaking and get in, get out.
I love it. Did they give you like a trophy or like what?
Yeah, so it's actually really cool. It's at my parents' house. You can imagine my parents are quite proud, just like any
Sure.
parent would be.
Right.
So they
Like, hey,
love
come
it.
on in. This is my daughter's Tewaaraton Trophy Award.
They are quite proud of it. They have it displayed downstairs. Luckily, no one really goes downstairs, but it is down there. But yeah, just kind of, they did give you a trophy. It's pretty big, but it's just funny because at the end of the day, yes, um, like I think it's really unique and awesome. And I wish I would have, mentioned it in my speech. But like now, like I said earlier, seeing goalies that want to be goalies and want to get better and want to take those extra shots instead of just throwing, the most unathletic kid in cage or the kid that doesn't want to really be there in cage. It changes everything. I think it allowed, so much, I don't know, just the goalie position to be really on display after that. And then it was really cool to be that person, which I didn't realize in the moment. In the moment, you're just thinking like, wow, like nothing. I don't even know what I'm thinking, honestly. I was just like, oh my God, here we go. But with that too, like at the same time, it's really cool to have it displayed because it's a team defense award too. You can be an awesome goalie and maybe you make some awesome saves, but if you don't have a defense in front of you that knows how you play, know the type of shots you want to see, you can't be as successful as you possibly could be. And luckily I had that at Maryland. The girls, they worked really hard to get me those shots that I could potentially save. So definitely award for them, not for me, but for them as well.
I love it. I love it. And for your parents putting in
And
all
yeah,
that. Yeah. And everyone
definitely
that
mom and dad.
supported you and your brother. I imagine everyone was so thrilled and congratulations. I mean, it's really awesome. I know there's a lot, a whole generation of youth goalies who saw your performance and saw you win that award. And now they say, you know what? I want to be like Megan Taylor in the goal there.
Oh, that would be really cool. That is really cool.
Yeah. And that's what we're doing with this site, with this podcast. We're making the goalie position cool.
Yeah, I love that.
Awesome. Wow. Where do we go from here? This is amazing. I'm having so much fun. So you're now coaching at Navy, correct?
Correct.
Working with the goalies or just general
goalies and defense.
Goalies and defense. All right. When you work with goalies at Navy or maybe youth goalies, what's your style of coaching? Like if there's a goalie that's just a raw ball of clay, or I guess at Navy they're not, when you get them to that level, they're not as as raw
Yeah.
as a youth goalie, but how do you go about coaching? What's your
So I did a lot of before. I was a volunteer coach last year, so I did a lot of goalie stuff on the side of that. And growing up, I always worked with goalies, so yeah, I definitely saw the Clays, and now at Navy, I have these awesome goalies, like so phenomenal. Want to learn, want to be awesome. It's so cool. So to kind of answer the first part, if I see a raw goalie, I just want them to like literally after a lesson to go home to their mom and dad and say, that was awesome. I learned so much and I want to coach, like I want to be a goalie. I want to go back for more. So with that, it's like teaching them and like actually, breaking it down instead of just throwing them in if they're that raw, like throwing them in and being like, you got it. Yeah, I can hype you up. But like actually making sure you understand like what works and what doesn't, because at the same time you're so raw is like something I do might not work for you, but that's the cool part about being a goalie. There's so many different styles to play. So like kind of learning that style that works for you and then like letting me help you with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like if I see that type of goalie. And like I said, like if she's that raw, like just really enjoying, like I come out of like sessions sweating if I'm working with a goalie because I'm running up and down. I'm not just, staying stationary the entire time. Like I want them coming back and I want them to be a goalie and coming back and being like, I want to make that game winning save.
Yeah.
And kind of having the confidence to do that. But with my Navy goalies, I think, same idea, but just kind of fine tuning. At this point, they already have their style and they're already awesome. So not letting them think too much, but, finding out like, okay, if you do this, you could make potentially 2 more saves, body saves, if you just put your like whole positioning and then it like explode through it. So just little things like that. Make it really fun. I don't know. Like it's just fun. I love it.
Yeah. It's a interesting point, and one I 100% agree with is when you're coaching, you've got to bring that enthusiasm and that fire and that energy, because that is contagious.
Yeah.
It really is. Like if you're not into a practice session, why would the kid be?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just kind of like again, it's not, I love it. Yeah, I played it. I love it. But like at the end of the day, some days are hard and I get that too. So making sure, if they get pelted during practice, let's actually fine tune them up and like get them ready and get them the confidence they need. Like I said, I want a goalie to feel like they're a rock star. And at the end of the day, if the game's tied 7-7 with 1 minute left, to make that final save and take your team into overtime, I think that's an awesome feeling.
Yeah. That is. I love it. Megan, I asked my Instagram audience. I told them, hey, I'm interviewing Megan Taylor. What do you want me to ask her? And they sent me a bunch of questions. Could I ask you those questions?
Yeah, of
All
course.
right. Juliana Bambina. She says, how do you make up for your height on high saves?
Ooh, so it's funny. I don't really feel like I'm small, but then I watch like I see a photo of me or like I see a highlight or something online, and I'm like, wow, that's a lot of cage behind me. So with that, I guess like just making sure, I explode up, like I don't hesitate at all, and I have confidence that I'm gonna make that save. Because if I have confidence, I'm not gonna hesitate.
Mhm.
So don't hesitate and then explode. You can make up for any height. I promise. That's a big stick you have.
Mm-hmm. If you were like 5'10", do you feel like you'd play a little bit differently?
Whew. I would like to say no, but again, maybe my style would be a little different. But I would like to say no because I like the way I play.
Yeah, I love it. I'm a shorter goalie, by the way, too. I mean, I'm 5'8", which is shorter on the men's side. So,
Yeah.
for me, I didn't get like like a real deep squat, a real deep stance, like a lot of goalies like to do, because
Mhm.
that would just expose way too much of the cage. So yes, I was in an athletic stance. My knees were bent, but not super down.
Yeah, I used to bait when I was younger,
Mm.
and I used to be like super get low to the ground, so they would shoot up high because I thought I liked high shots, and then I got to like college where like yeah I could bait maybe here and there, but I couldn't bait 24/7 because that's any scouting report's gonna say that. So you just gotta play it even then at that point.
Yeah. You know, one thing we didn't touch on that's unique to the women's game is the 8 meter. Like when there's an 8 meter shot, you know, what do you have like a pre 8 meter ritual?
So it's not a ritual, but my family always makes fun of it. That's why I'm laughing. I got a video. I have a 2-year-old nephew and a 4-year-old niece, and we got them mini stick lacrosse, and that came with a goalie stick too, with a goal. And then so they hopped in and they like, I guess they just saw me on like TV, and they did my like little ritual. So I always say like if I didn't do it, it wasn't the end of the world, but it just kind of got me ready, and I would jump and then I would like kick my butt and throw my stick, and I don't know why, um, but I would always do that. And again, no idea why or how, but it's funny because I got like after my senior year, like coaches would tell me like their 7-year-old goalie is now doing that. So I just think that's so cute and so fun. Again, no idea if it helped me or not, but it just kind of got me like set like a free throw. Like here we go,
Yeah.
find your positioning, jump, get your legs going, and then save.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Fingers
It is.
crossed.
It is. I mean, it is just like a free throw. You need like a break in the game. You know, you got a chance to like collect yourself. So unique to the women's game, obviously. But I would recommend every goalie do that. You know, have some
Mhm.
sort of routine that you go through. It just helps you get set mentally more than anything. Well, also
Yeah.
physically too. All right. Let's see here. That was a great question, Juliana. Thank you. Just plain Alistair says, what have you learned from being a lax goalie, which helps you with everyday life?
Wow.
Right?
Ooh, okay. Um, right off the bat, I guess like, that's still like the mental side of things. If you don't have a good day, it's not the end of the world. You get one tomorrow. So just like, you know, that I think that comes to my mind right away. If you don't, that mental side of a hurdle, if something doesn't go right, it's okay. Like you'll have another chance at it, hopefully. If not, then we can recover and do something else, like that type of mentality.
Yeah. Yeah, that's strong. That's going to help you with everyday life, because in everyday life you're going to take L's. You're going to take those losses from time to
Yeah.
time, and you know it's like, do you take one loss and then get right back at it, or do you take 7 losses in a row? You know what I mean? And like as a
Yeah.
lacrosse goalie, you better learn how to take one loss, give up that goal, and then get right back on it. It's something you learn that carries to life.
Hmm.
All right. Great question. Um, El Furio Saposo, who designs your helmet and gloves? Did you have like a unique helmet and design and glove design?
I did not. So since I did play at Maryland, we were sponsored by Under Armour,
Hmm.
and Cascade was the helmet. So
Did you use the
nothing fun. I
did you
always
use
wore
the
a red helmet. I liked it. I like the color red though in general.
love
Um,
it.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah. Did you use the Under Armour headline, the goalie head?
I did.
Cool. How did you like that stick?
It got the job done for me at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it made saves. I grew up playing with the Eclipse, so it's a little different of a transition. But I always, at the same time, I also grew up with some hand-me-downs. Like my brother would have a stick, and then we cut it down, and I would take it. So I'm not super picky whatsoever when it comes to sticks. Give me a deep pocket, give me a shallow pocket. I don't really care. Um, so that never really bothered me.
Got
But
it.
yeah, like the
Did
Under Armour
you
sticks.
I haven't played with the headline. That's why I was curious. I mean, the STX Eclipse 2, which I have back over my shoulder here is I mean, it's an amazing goalie head. I think it's the best right now, but yeah, I never played with the headline.
Yeah, no, I liked it.
Yeah.
I mean, I could honestly say I loved it. It worked really well for me.
It looks very
So
similar in theory to the Eclipse. So there,
yeah,
I don't think it's that different. Did you play like deep pocket? Did you play with a deep pocket, or like who strung up your heads?
my brother's goalie coach strung it up for me. I take it to him, and then he would just string it at that time because we're pretty close. And he's just a nice guy too, so he'd do
Yeah.
it. Him and my brother are pretty close, so and I wasn't say deep. It was probably medium. I couldn't really throw the ball very far. I knew that wasn't a strength of mine, so I'd rather not be able to throw it far and give up less rebounds. So I did play with Heroes Mesh. I thought that kind of helped with that rebound situation.
Got it. Matt asks an interesting question. So he wants to know the similarities or differences between girls and guys goalies. What's your thoughts on that?
Ooh. So I actually like this question a lot just because I'm sure you guys know throughout this podcast, my brother, I was taught by a boy. So I definitely think I have a lot of boy attributes in my goalie game than a girl. But some of the big similar differences I'd say is in boys lacrosse, they're shooting pretty far out. Yet they're shooting really hard. Don't get me wrong, but it's a little bit farther out. While in girls lacrosse, you're looking at like 5 to 6 meter, maybe even closer shots for the most part. So that's just like a huge difference right off the bat. Um, you don't really have that much time to react. You just kind of have to go. And that kind of is like the biggest thing to me. But the shooting space, I think some similarities are though, you know, the clear is the same. You get it out, keep going. Everyone's, you're the first person to clear that ball. And if you get them in full stride, it's almost guaranteed to, have a shot on goal, making that other defense flex. Some other similarities that could come to my mind are just the simple things of like almost our gear is basically the same. Like I'm playing with stick, gloves, and a helmet. So that's kind of not different in that aspect. So yeah, there's some differences and some similarities, but I'd
Yeah.
say for the most part, the shot selection of what you're seeing in one game compared to what you see in the other game, biggest difference. I mean,
Yeah. Interesting. Great answer. Talking about the gear for a second, a lot of female goalies, because the gear is different in the sense that all my teammates as a male are wearing helmets, right?
yeah,
All like, so that's a little bit different because sometimes goalie in of itself is this unique position. Then tack on like, oh, I've looked different.
yeah.
Did you ever battle with like feeling not part of the team?
No, no, I always not really, but there's this cute photo of me when I was younger. Because the club team I played for, they had skirts. And
Hmm.
so I didn't know at the time, and no one had the heart to tell me because they just thought I looked so cute. And my mom was like, I just can't tell her. She just looks so darn cute because I was so little. I had all this gear like covered. Like I was like 7, like covered. So you can imagine. But I would bring that skirt with me and like put it on over top of my like thigh pads. And everyone on the sideline apparently was just like, that is so cute. And I was like, why did no one tell me? So that was probably the only thing that caught with that question that comes to my mind.
I love it. I love it. What would you say though to a young girl who's feeling that way, who's feeling a little bit isolated, who's feeling not part of the team?
Yeah, I just say, make sure you talk to somebody, grab a teammate, a coach, or whatnot, and let them know. Because I'm sure, there's ways to fix that if you want to be a part of the team or you feel like not part of the team. There's different things, whether it's just, after practice hanging around or doing stuff before practice with people. Because, that is a little isolating. They might be going off and doing ground balls and you're not really doing ground balls, so you're in your goalie world session. But so yeah, finding that balance of okay, when you're not in, there's water breaks, making sure you talk to people and like hang out and say hi. Remember, it's a sport and you should be having so much fun. So if you're not feeling that way, have that conversation.
Yeah, that's a great point. Have that conversation. And then, the other thing too is, some people have this mentality of like, oh, I'm on goalie island. Like this is so lonely. Well, that's the time when we get better. Like this is
Yeah,
a unique position, right? And so you do need individual skill work, kind of like face off, kind of like, other individual positions. And that's our time to get better. Like embrace that
yeah,
time. Love that time.
it's awesome. I love goalie world. It's like my favorite time.
Yeah. Right. Just hang out on Goalie Island, get better, come back to the team and show them what you learned
Yeah.
on Goalie Island. Awesome. Haley wants to know about your warm-up routine. What did you do, your favorite way to warm up for a game?
So it kind of changed throughout the years, and then I kind of found something that worked. Just so again, my biggest advice is like if it doesn't feel comfortable after you do it a couple times, change it up. Not the end of the world. Find what works for you. But what I would do is I would start with tennis balls, and just in the pole of a player stick, and I just do a couple, like 3 shots to 2 shots in each spot, just so I would really be dialed in right off the bat. Um, and then I would move into lacrosse balls, and I hit all those same positions, and I would let my shooter know when I'm ready to rotate. And then I would do some kind of liver shots, forcing down the alleyways,
Mm.
and then on both sides, and then like 1 or 2, maybe 3, 8 meters until I felt good, and then I'd hop into clears, and then hop in a few drills here and there, but mainly just kind of dialing it in and focusing on the ball.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Angela Crozy. Do you know Angela, by the way?
I think I do. Yes.
Awesome. I owe her a big thanks. She gave me her email. So she
I was
is
gonna say that name sounds. Yeah, I haven't seen her in a while.
okay. So yeah, thank you, Angela. She says, ask her about how it went from playing at Maryland to coaching at USNA.
Oh, yeah, it went awesome. Like I love it. It's kind of, I guess, different from playing. As a coach, I don't really have much control over the game. So, you can control and hype them up, but at the end of the day, they're going to be playing. So that's kind of just the biggest difference is in a game, you kind of feel more controlled. And as an outsider coach, you're kind of watching it and hoping that, everything that you prepared that week is going to work. So that's kind of the biggest difference, I think, just
Mhm.
playing and being so used to, seeing shots. But I do like the aspect of, again, hyping the game on the line type feeling and like, let's get after it. You get to compete again. That's fun.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. Chase wants to know if you have any pregame traditions.
No, I know. I'm like the easiest goalie. I feel like I am not like superstitious. I would eat a bagel. Sometimes I'd eat 2 bagels because depending on how hungry I was.
Everything
And
bagel, plain bagel. What are we dealing with here?
we would go to bagel place for our home game. So I just get either a butter bagel or just another butter bagel, but nothing crazy. Like it's a long day. Like you get to the field early and then you don't eat until afterwards. And like I would get hungry. So it just kind of depended, but nothing crazy. I would stretch. And then it's game time. Just hang out with my friends. Nothing out of the norm.
I love it. I love it. I think a lot of these questions we hit on throughout this conversation. Megan, I want to say thank you so much for taking your time to share the knowledge with all the listeners and with me. I've learned a ton, and this was tons of fun. If you had to leave the goalies out there with one last piece of advice, what would that be?
One last piece of advice I haven't already said yet. Let me think.
All
So probably is it's gonna sound cliche again, but just to enjoy the moment, no matter what level you're playing at or where you're at, or if you want to continue to go to that next level, enjoy where you're at right now. You only have so many years in your life. It's not a sport like golf. Yes, you can play for a really long time, but when you're 90 years old, you might hop in goal, but I don't think it will be the same type of feeling that you're having now. So just enjoy it, and then embrace every moment, because you never know what the future is going to be like. And hopefully, you go to the next level, and you want to go to the next level. But if not, have really a great time where you're at right now.
Amazing. That's awesome. I love it. Love it so much. Well, before we hit record, I told you this is a great day for me or for anyone who loves lacrosse. We're recording this on Sunday, May 23rd. I get to talk with Megan Taylor in the morning, and I get to watch NCAA tournament in the afternoon. It's going to be awesome.
So
Go Maryland. Maryland's playing today.
2:30.
There you go.
Let's go Terps.
There you go. We'll leave it at that. Megan, thank you so much.
Thank you.